Hello, my name is Lisa Yerton, and today I'm going to share my presentation with you. We're finally on week 3. Hello everyone, my name is Lisa Yerton, and this presentation is for MAN 4885. This week, I'm excited to talk to you about sound methodologies, specifically Waterfall, Agile, and hybrids. Overview of this presentation will discuss sound methodology, including its definition and requirements, the Waterfall methodology, its definition, life cycle phases, and pros and cons of using this methodology in a software development environment, and the evolution of Waterfall methodology. I will explain how a hybrid system can mitigate its cons with an example case study. First, we're going to define a sound methodology and the requirements that it must have. What is a sound methodology? It is a systematic approach to gathering information that relies on established processes and procedures drawn from scientific research techniques. The requirements for a sound methodology are: it must have a maximum life cycle of 6 phases. The life cycles must overlap. There must be a gate or end of phase review. It can be integrated with other processes. It strives for continuous improvement, and it's customer service oriented. Keeping this definition and requirements in mind, let's further examine our topic, Waterfall methodology. Waterfall methodology is one of the most used across all industries, and it is very common in software development and construction. The Waterfall software development model describes a linear development method that is often considered the classic approach to software development lifecycle. It was first described by Dr. Winston Royce back in 1970. To further popularize this methodology, in 1985, the United States Department of Defense captured this approach in their standards for working with software development contractors. So, what exactly is the Waterfall methodology? It is a sequential model used to create different kinds of software where project development is seen as flowing steadily downwards, like in a waterfall, through each of the phases. The main idea of the waterfall model is that software development proceeds from one phase to the next step in a purely sequential manner, meaning the step 1 must be completed and inspected before step 2 can begin. Can you imagine if each of these waterfalls represented a project in your organization? Next, we're going to talk about the life cycle phases of the Waterfall methodology. Because the Waterfall methodology has been around since the 1970s, it has been adapted and modified, so the names of the life cycle phases may be different depending on where you're researching. However, the 6 phases consist of a requirement analysis. This involves gathering information about what the customer needs and clearly defining the problem that the product is expected to solve. This includes understanding the customer's business context and constraints, the functions the product must perform, the performance levels it must adhere to, and the external systems it must be compatible with. The next stage is design. This involves defining the hardware and software architecture, specifying performance and security parameters, designing data storage containers and constraints, choosing the programming language, and indicating strategies to deal with issues such as exception handling, resource management, and user interface design. Once this is complete, the next phase, implementation, begins. This consists of actually constructing the product as per the design specs developed in step 2. It is performed by a development team consisting of programmers, interface designers, and other specialists. Once complete, the product goes into testing. In this stage, both individual components and the integrated whole are methodologically verified to ensure that they are error-free and fully meet the requirements outlined in Step 1, requirement analysis. A quality assurance team defines test cases to evaluate whether the product fully or partially satisfies the requirements outlined in this step. After testing is complete, installation begins. This occurs once the product has been testified is fit for use. It involves preparing the system or product for installation and use at the customer site. The last stage is maintenance. This involves making modifications to the system or an individual component to alter attributes to improve performance. These modifications arise either due to change requests initiated by the customer or defects uncovering during live use of the system. So now that we know the phases of the waterfall methodology, let's take a look at the pros and the cons. The pros are the advantages of the waterfall model. It's simple and easy to understand and use. It's a rigid model, which means each phase has specific deliverables and review processes. Documentation and artifacts are meticulously maintained and is suitable for projects where requirements are well understood. The cons and disadvantages of the waterfall model are no working software is produced until late during the life cycle. It's not a good model for complex and long projects. The cost of fixing defects is very high when detected at a later stage, and is not suitable for projects where requirements are at risk for changing. So, with all of these cons, it seems that the waterfall methodology has become outdated. I wanted to go a step further and show you how the waterfall methodology is evolving. In order to try and mitigate the cons of the waterfall methodology, Agile software was developed. The waterfall model was sequential, while Agile followed an incremental approach. Problem solved, right? Not quite. When clients who used to follow the waterfall model switched to Agile, the transition brought many issues with it, including inadaptability to a new approach to software development, lack of emphasis on design and documentation, and an unstable and skilled team. The end product turned out to be disastrous. This makes it evident that both waterfall and Agile models have their disadvantages. However, a new hybrid methodology has been created to ensure a robust end product. The hybrid system, or collaborative model, uses the pros of both Agile and waterfall models. How, might you be wondering? The hybrid model uses waterfall methodology primarily during the requirements and analysis and design lifestyle phase, and then it incorporates the Agile methodology into coding, test, and the implementation phase. So, let's take a look at how this might work out in a case study. Take, for instance, ABC Software firm provides services to the client, which is XYZ University. They're supposed to develop, test, and maintain their software. The main requirement of the account are ABC Software has to upgrade the applications of XYZ University. Until now, all the projects handled by ABC Software were executed in the waterfall model. Client XYZ University now wants these applications to be worked on using the Agile model of software development. The two applications that they have that are heavy traffic and high priority that are scheduled to be redeveloped are online registrations, and the second one is online examinations. So, the first project ABC Software executed using the Agile model was the online registration. After the execution of this project, it was realized that there were many flaws in the processes. I'm going to review 3 common flaws that occur when organizations switch from the waterfall methodology directly to the Agile methodology. The first error that occurs is there's no documentation, and people like reference material. Over the years, when projects were executed in the waterfall model, documents were maintained and updated for the support team to understand and work accordingly. Solution design, technical design, walkthrough documents were some of the documents that were prepared. And when the project was over, the same was transitioned to the support team. Now, Agile supports minimal documentation and no such documents were prepared. So when our case study did their first project, the project went live and there were many tickets raised by end users, and the support team had no clue on how to work on them due to the lack of reference material. The second common mistake is that there's no end-to-end testing. In Agile, the testers get the builds to test in increments, and they keep on integrating until the final build is completely built. Testers test the requirements covered in each sprint and keep doing regression testing of the build that keeps on adding up. When the final build is ready and all integrated, the tester should test the complete system and should perform end-to-end testing in a completely new environment. However, in our case study, when the online registration project was tested, it was done in the testing environment. After the system and retesting of all defects, it was declared ready for sign-off. Ideally, this was not promoted to another environment for another cycle of system testing. The third common mistake was that there was no project manager. What? The Scrum Master is responsible for making sure a team lives by the values and practices of Scrum. The Scrum Master is considered a coach for the team by helping the team to do the best work it possibly can. I'm guessing that this role is similar to the project manager. In our case study, the importance of having a dedicated Scrum Master was not considered important. That resulted in a lot of issues not getting resolved on time, and in turn, the project often crossed the deadline and was late. ABC Software took care to mitigate these problems that occurred from the switch from Waterfall methodology directly to Agile in its second project, Online Examinations, by using the hybrid methodology. In conclusion, while the waterfall methodology may be outdated for our rapidly changing software development needs, an automatic switch to Agile may leave the company in shambles and unable to adapt to the new methodology. A softer approach may be to form a crossover utilizing the hybrid process. Here's a list of references that I used to complete my project. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and have a great week.